Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have another great show for you tonight, show 781. 781 shows since October of 1996. Right next to me is our illustrious joint host, Mr. Casper Leach. Welcome back to the show, Casper. Over in the wings, Mr. John Cornett is ready to knock out a couple tunes. How are you tonight, John?
Excellent.
Good. We have some hip news for you and some film clips, so stay tuned as we bring on our infamous Dancing Cannabis Leaves.
I feel the force.
Okay, our first story tonight is out of our capital. A spokesperson for the U.S. Justice Department, or DOJ, this week told the Los Angeles Times that a bipartisan amendment passed by Congress last year prohibiting the Department of Justice from spending any money to undermine state medical marijuana laws doesn't prevent the Los Angeles office of the Justice Department from prosecuting people for medical marijuana or seizing their property. This statement comes as the agency continues to target people who are complying with California's medical marijuana law. This insubordination is occurring despite the fact that members of Congress in both parties were clear that their intent with the amendment was to protect medical marijuana patients and providers from federal prosecution and forfeiture. Basically, the Justice Department is ignoring the will of voters, defying Congress, and breaking this law. President Obama and Attorney General Eric Holder need to rein in this out-of-control agency. 23 states and the District of Columbia have laws that legalize and regulate marijuana for medicinal purposes. 12 states have laws on the books regulating cannabidiol, or CBD, oils and non-psychotropic component of medical marijuana, which some patients are utilizing to treat their children's seizures. 4 states and the District of Columbia have legalized marijuana for non-medical adult social use. So the DOJ, in many cases, is a rogue agency, and these folks in Los Angeles just don't want to see the end of their gravy train. They want to continue to ruin our lives so they can make money. That's what's going on with the Department of Justice, our injustice in this case. Out of Aurora, Colorado, we have another story. Patients with Parkinson's self-report cannabis to be highly efficacious alternative to medicine in the treatment of Parkinson's, according to the survey data published online ahead of print in the journal Evidence-Based Complementary and Alternative Medicine. Investigators reported that cannabis use remains comparatively uncommon among patients with Parkinson's disease. However, those respondents who acknowledged using the plant rated it as one of the most effective alternative treatment therapies available. The authors of the report concluded, quote, cannabis was rarely used in our population, but users reported high efficacy, mainly for non-motor symptoms, end quote. The clinical data has previously reported that inhaled cannabis is associated with significant improvement in Parkinson's disease-related pain and tremor, among other symptoms. This study, self-reported efficacy of cannabis and other complementary medicine modalities by Parkinson's patients in Colorado, appears in the journal Evidence-Based Complementary and Alternative Medicine. Might add that many believe another substance out there, ibogaine, is also very useful for Parkinson's patients. Down in the Caribbean, Jamaica's Governor General this week gave his assent to the so-called ganja law, the bill amending the Dangerous Drugs Act, making possession of 2 ounces or less of marijuana a ticketable offense rather than an arrestable one. The Jamaican Justice Minister Mark Golding made the disclosure on Thursday, just over a month after the Jamaican House of Representatives joined the Jamaican Senate in passing the legislation now being called the Ganja Law. The Jamaican House passed the bill on February 24th. This act is highlighted by a provision making possession of 2 ounces or less of ganja a ticketable offense. Other provisions could pave the way for the establishment of a legal ganja industry that advocates believe could reduce poverty in Jamaica. Back in this country, President Barack on Tuesday commuted the sentences of 22 federal inmates convicted of nonviolent drug offenses and sentenced to life. This follows the commutation of 8 federal inmates convicted of drug offenses by President Obama in December 2014. According to White House counsel Neil Eggleston, quote, had they been sentenced under current laws and policies, many of these individuals would have already served their time and paid their debt to society. Because many were convicted under an outdated sentencing regime, they served years, in some cases more than a decade longer, than individuals convicted today of the same crime, end quote. Last year, Attorney General Eric Holder made a number of forceful public statements against mass incarceration in the United States, promising significant rollback of mandatory minimum and harsh sentencing guidelines. The Obama administration also promised improvements in the commutation process. Yet despite his administration's declared support of substantive criminal justice reform, until now, President Obama has used his power to grant clemency less frequently than any other president in U.S. history. In Indiana, with their new religious freedom law, turning around this new tool originally intended as a tool of intolerance against gays, the first Church of Cannabis Incorporated has been approved by Indiana's Secretary of State after the state's religious freedom legislation came into effect last week. The church's founder, Bill Levine, said he filed the paperwork in direct response to Governor Mike Pence's signing of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act into law last Thursday. Indiana Secretary of State Connie Lawson approved the church as a religious corporation with the stated intent, quote, to start a church based on love and understanding with compassion for all, end quote. Cannabis is listed as a sacrament in the church's doctrine, according to Levine, who said he was setting up a church hierarchy. The church will grow our sacred herb, though it will not buy or sell cannabis. Levine said, quote, if someone is smoking in our church, God bless them. This is a church to show a proper way of life, a loving way of life. We are called Canatarians, end quote. Our last 2 stories tonight are from Hebrew University in Israel. Out of Jerusalem, Israel, the administration of the non-psychotropic cannabinoid cannabidiol, or CBD, leads to improvement in bone fracture healing, according to preclinical data published online ahead in print in the Journal of Bone and Mineral Research. Investigators at Hebrew University Bone Laboratory assessed the ability of CBD administration to promote healing in rats with mid-femoral fractures. The researchers reported, quote, CBD markedly enhanced the biomechanical properties of the healing femora after 8 weeks, end quote. The authors also evaluated the administration of THC and CBD together, but reported that this combined preparation was not advantageous over CBD alone. They concluded, quote, CBD alone is sufficiently effective in enhancing fracture healing. Multiple experimental and clinical trials have portrayed CBD as a safe agent, suggesting further studies in humans to assess its usefulness for improving fracture healing, end quote. The researchers acknowledged previously that endogenous cannabinoids stimulate bone formation and inhibit bone loss, potentially paving the way for future use of cannabinoid drugs for combating osteoporosis. This study, cannabidiol, a major non-psychotropic cannabis constituent, enhances fracture healing, appears in the Journal of Bone and Mineral Research. Also out of Hebrew University in Jerusalem, the administration of the plant-derived cannabidiol CBD extracts provide greater efficacy in the treatment of pain and inflammation than does the use of purified CBD alternative, according to data published online in the Journal of Pharmacology and Pharmacy. The investigators at Hebrew University Institute for Drug Research assessed the anti-inflammatory activities of plant-derived CBD extracts in animals. The researchers reported that extracts derived from a CBD-dominant strain of cannabis provided a wider therapeutic window than did the administration of a purified form of CBD provided by a German pharmaceutical company. The authors concluded that the administration of plant-derived extracts is superior to the use of synthetic CBD in the treatment of certain inflammatory diseases. The authors reported, quote, "Our findings show that CBD, in the presence of other plant constituents, improve the dose response. The higher efficiency of plant extract might be explained by additive or synergistic interactions between CBD and minor phytocannabinoids or non-cannabinoids present in the extracts," end quote. They concluded, quote, "A lot of research has been made to isolate and characterize isolated single constituents of traditional herbal medicine to find their rationale for therapeutic uses. However, our data, together with those of others, provide legitimacy to introduce a new generation of phytopharmaceuticals to treat diseases that have hitherto been treated using synthetic drugs alone. Overcoming the bell-shaped dose response of cannabidiol using cannabis extract enriched in cannabidiol is the name of this paper, and it appears online at scirp.org. That's scirp.org. That's our last hemp news story tonight. And now Mr. John Cornett is standing by to sing us a song, play his guitar.
Thank you, Paul. I'm going to put a new spin on a really old song here. Goes a little bit like this. As soon as you're born, they make you feel small by giving you no time instead of it all. The pain is so big you feel nothing at all. A working class hero is something to be. A working class hero is something to be. They hurt you at home and they hit you at school. They hate you if you're clever and they despise a fool. You're so freaking crazy you can't follow their rule. A working class hero is something to be. A working class hero is something to be. They tortured and scared you for 20 odd years. And then they expect you to pick a career. And you barely function, so full of fear. A working class hero is something to be. A working class hero is something to be. Keep your dope on religion, sex and TV. You think you're so clever and classless and free, but you're still freaking peasants as far as I can see. A working class hero is something to be. A working class hero is something to be. There's room at the top, they're telling you still. As long as you learn how to smile as you get. If you want to be like those folks on the hill. A working class hero is something to be. 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 If you want to be a hero, just follow you. If you want to be a hero, just follow you.
All right, thank you, John. That's a great song. I love that song. Hey, welcome, Casper.
Thank
welcome,
you.
Viewers. It is the 3rd of April. And if you're watching Friday night, the 3rd of April, you can call us at that number there on your screen. It's 503-288-4442. We'll be taking your calls right up to the top of the hour. If you have a question about ending marijuana prohibition, the impending regulation of marijuana in any of the states across the country, or helping medical marijuana patients, or about hemp for fuel, fiber, and food, you can call us at that number. And we do have a caller standing by. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi.
Howdy.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about hello,
Hey.
about the reduced fee for veterans at the OMMP, because it really only qualifies a very, very small amount of veterans. And I think it's a real, I would say, shame on the legislature in Salem for setting up this reduced fee, because you would need to be 100% disabled veteran in order to qualify. So even if you are 90% disabled and are being paid at 100%, you still do not qualify for the reduced fee, which is $20.
Right.
However, if you have a $15 a month food stamp benefit, then you can get a reduced fee of $50 instead of the $200. I think.
Yeah, the fee is just outrageously high.
Yeah.
In Hawaii, the fee is now $35. It's $35 for your initial card. In Montana, then it goes down to $15 a year. The legislature raised this to raise money for the health department, and Lord knows the health department needs money.
Right.
But I don't think they should be taxing sick and dying people to receive that. I'm a disabled veteran myself with just 20% disability rating, which is enough for them to pay my way through school once I got out under their vocational rehabilitation program. But anything that gives the veterans a break in these outrageous fees is obviously a good thing.
It's completely outrageous, and it's a real slap in the face to veterans. And the legislature should be ashamed of what they've done, because all of the veterans deserve a reduced fee. And it's completely absurd that they have done this. And I'm appalled by what they've done. It's all about them making money for the programs at OHA, and
they thought they would less interest in the program, that they'd price some of the poor sick people out of the program. That was one of the rationales for the people who put that huge increase in cost. It went up by about 300% when the state raised that. It went from $75 to $200.
Yeah.
And it's just a mistaken and misguided policy. Hopefully, we'll see cannabis become cheaper and more plentiful as rational policies begin to replace these prohibitionary ones.
I hope so. Well, thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling. It's a very good point. Again, if you're out there tonight and you have a question or comment for us, you can call us at 503-288-4442. Casper, I know you're a veteran too. You don't get a reduced fee, though, for the medical marijuana program based on that.
No, but I'm just grateful that I'm able to get medical marijuana in this state, because as we talked about at the top of the hour, there are so many states where it is completely unavailable. If you are even utilizing it in any way, you could risk being behind bars. So just the mere fact that we have the ability to get it here in the state of Oregon, it's a couple $100, yes, but I can certainly tell you in Indiana, the state that we were talking about, a ounce of marijuana that is worth smoking will cost you about $400. Mm-hmm. So for half the price of an ounce that you would buy in Indiana, you get your medical marijuana license, and you don't have to deal with any type of legal problems at that point if you obey the guidelines of the state. So again, there's a lot of things about what's going on in the medical marijuana movement. It is a travesty, as Ed Rosenthal pointed out. In California, many medical aspects are not taxed. Aspirins are not taxed. Band-Aids are not taxed if you need them for health care. But medical marijuana is taxed. And to put the burden on the back of sick people, as you've said, is horrific and is just a sign of cowardly behavior, as is the behavior of this forfeiture going on by the DEA, even though our Congress and our voters have very, very much spoken. The DEA seems to act in stupidity, ignorance, malice.
Yeah, and it's the Justice Department. It's the prosecutors, really.
Exactly.
More than, the DEA is part of that. Actually, they're part of the Treasury. But this is a federal Justice Department prosecutorial policy that we were talking about earlier in the news segment,
That's
where
right.
they're saying they aren't going to abide by this new law. So
and they are
hopefully
grasping.
they will suffer some consequence for their obstinance. Speaking of tragedies, I heard just last night about a woman who had come here from Indiana and got a medical marijuana permit and was taking some marijuana back with her, and she was stopped in western Kansas, where they put her in jail, denied her medications, and she died. She died in the jail cell. So that just happened just last month, and that's just one instance of something that's happened to a patient coming to Oregon to try to find relief for their condition.
Well, it's been pointed out that the Justice Department seems to be grasping at straws and refusing to believe that it is the end of prohibition.
They've made so much money from the corruption, from
Right.
selling this stuff on the black market after it's
Exactly.
been seized out of her house. I've seen that happen so many times. You'll see the evidence when the police raid a place. They always come in right at harvest. You look in the evidence locker, as I've done as an expert witness on a few occasions, and all the buds have been trimmed off and are gone. So the courts don't want to address that, though. We have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller. No caller. Well, if you have a question for us tonight, you can call us at 503-288-4442. We have a studio audience here. If you'd like to come down most any Friday night, we're here live most Friday nights, and you can come down to our show, see it live, or ask us a question. We have a question from a studio audience member. Go right ahead, Judy.
Yeah, I want to encourage everybody to come down. It's a lot of fun and very interesting to come to the show. Very easy, too. I wanted to ask you guys to please talk about what are they doing at OLCC. What about all this business? You read the story in the Willamette Week about how, what they really want to do, what they really had intended to do that got leaked out to the public was that they wanted to eliminate the medical marijuana program and put it all under the control of the OLCC.
Yeah.
So please, guys, anything that you can say to enlighten us about that.
Well, yeah, as we reported on our news here last week, they had fired the director that the OLCC had hired to implement the medical marijuana program. His name is Tom Burns, and he had previously implemented the dispensary program, which started just 1 year ago right now, or 13 months ago in March of 2014. But Tom Burns has responded here in the past few days that he had been giving out documents to people interested in the program all along, but there was obviously some conflict between him and this fellow Partridge at the OLCC, who's trying to take control of the medical marijuana program as well. And so the people, Burns and others, said the story in the Willamette Week wasn't entirely accurate, and hopefully they will retract some of that. But we'll find out in the near future.
Maybe Tom's brother, Bud Burns, can be in charge.
Might burn some for that. We have another studio audience member here. Go right ahead, Greg.
You guys missed a really good get-together at the state capitol on Monday night.
I heard about that. I was
Yeah.
over in Vancouver, Canada. I had some business meetings up in Vancouver, BC on Monday.
It was
but
great.
I watched the video.
Oh, you did?
On the internet.
It was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, we've actually put that video on our website. If you go to YouTube channel Regulate Marijuana, we're posting all of the videos of the OLCC and the Joint Committee to Implement Measure 91 on YouTube, so people can watch those in perpetuity. Hopefully that'll help some other states.
But the one point that I really liked, first they were trying to cut our numbers and this and that, and we were,
Patients rose up.
Yeah, and they...
Hallelujah.
And they were saying, well, they were worried that the medical growers were going to desert the patients and go towards recreational when it became worth money. And we're there saying, no, we're not. We're dedicated to our patients.
And they want to limit the amount of patients that a medical grower can take care of, which would mean I'd have to get rid of 100 patients and wouldn't be able to help them at all.
But then they started talking about, well, maybe we should let you have your 6 plants per patient and give you some extra plants so that you can make some recreational money, so you can make some money at this. So that you won't be bought out by the recreational.
Well, that's the thing. We all have to go down and participate in the legislature. I know when I first moved here way back in 1984, anyway, the first legislative session I went to in 85, I went to Salem. There was a hearing on a drug bill. I stood up. There were all these provisions written on the board. And I said, I'm against that provision and this provision. The guy stood up. He erased them off the board, and they were off of the law. That's all it took. I just had to stand up in that group, and the law was revised, and the bad points were taken away. It's not always that easy, but sometimes it is. And if we want a law that we all can live with, then we have to participate in the process. And that means finding out when these hearings are, letting our state legislators know, and participating. I'm glad to hear you were there doing that.
We had about 400 speakers, and it was a real good time. They were looking for our input. They don't really know how to do this.
They couldn't have possibly had 400 people speak. I mean, they gave
there was 400 people signed up to speak.
But how many? Only probably 50 of them got time to do it, right?
Yeah, it was a good time though.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for that. We have a caller on the telephone. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Is this Paul?
This is Paul.
Hi, this is Peter. I live in Portland, and across the Columbia in Vancouver, they sell legal marijuana,
yes,
but it's extremely expensive. And
it is. What is the price?
The last I heard, it was like $30 a gram.
Isn't that amazing? $30 a gram.
Yes.
You know, I grow cannabis outdoors right now in a small urban environment for about 15 cents a gram. So something that, and if I could do it in a large field, I could probably cut that in half. And I will be able to do it in a large field.
So why is legal pot so expensive, and is it likely to come down in price?
There were prosecutors that set up, police were the ones who drew up the law in Washington. It was this lady from the Washington chapter of the American Civil Liberties Union, Allison Holcomb, in conjunction with the federal prosecutor John Williams and the King County prosecutor, and they came up with this outrageous scheme with no consultation of anyone else. Then it was backed financially with $6 million by the Drug Policy Alliance and George Soros. And so that's the reason we have a bad law in Washington State, where marijuana is $600 to $900 an ounce. And this is something that grows on trees, folks, and it's having no impact on the black market whatsoever. We need a new law in Washington. I don't think the legislature is going to do it. They don't have the guts. We're going to have to get a new initiative there and undo the mess that the Drug Policy Alliance has wrought upon us.
Is this thing done? How exactly do they work this?
How exactly what?
Do they work this?
Yeah, how exactly does this bad legislation work to drive the price?
There's a big, huge license fee. The largest garden you can grow is 20,000 square feet, which is about half an acre. And so on that half an acre, so you have a whole bunch of these little gardens that have to be fenced in and on camera, and then the grower cannot be the processor or the retailer, and the processor can't be the grower or the retailer, and the retailer cannot be the grower or the processor. So there's no vertical integration. Oregon's law does allow vertical integration, but the Washington law does not. And then they put a 25% tax on the grower, and then another 25% tax on the processor, and then another 25% tax on the retailer. And then there are state sales taxes and local county and municipal taxes on top of that. So in the end, you have a product that is just taxed at an astronomical rate, 150 to 200%. And
that's been required to have a team of people to produce it.
Yeah, with a lot more people working on it than need to work on it.
And the cost of cameras and follow through and security on top of that,
Yeah.
which you don't normally have for other businesses, plus legal fees just applying for the state. And you haven't even made your first dollar yet.
Oh.
So that's the way they set up the Washington law.
Okay.
But it's legal, and they voted for
Well, it's a
it.
step in the right direction, but
And
it's
who
not
gets-
good enough.
And who
and
gets
we have
all
to
the
change
money that's extorted from people that want to grow pot?
Yeah, you know, I first moved to Washington State. When I moved to the Northwest, I grew up in the South, in Dallas, Texas, and Asheville, North Carolina. But I moved to Washington State when I was 21. When I was 22 to the age of 24, back in 1982 to 1984, I was the Washington State Normal Coordinator and went around the state talking about how we have to get an initiative to legalize marijuana in Washington. I moved to Oregon in 1984 to work on the Oregon Marijuana Initiative, and I've been at it ever since. But the initiative that was passed up there was opposed by many people in the marijuana community. I supported it, even though I knew it was a bad bill, because it's a step in the right direction, and at least now no one can be arrested for possessing an ounce or less. But it's not a good law, and it needs revision.
And someone who helps the THCF team has written an awful lot about it that he could check out online, Steve Elliott.
That's right. If you go to our website, hemp.org/news, that's hemp.org/news, you'll find an amazing archive of news stories, including lots of stories about what's going on up in Washington.
And what hope is there that the price will be reduced in the future?
You know, I don't think there's any hope in the next year or two. I don't think there's any initiative that's circulating that's going to qualify for a vote in 2016. Doesn't look like the legislature in Washington's going to do anything this year. All we can do is maybe come up with something for the 2018 cycle, unless a lot of money comes forward very quickly to revise that and puts an initiative on the ballot in Washington for 2016, and that seems unlikely at this point. But our law in Oregon is much, much better. It does allow vertical integration. It has one single tax of $35 for an ounce of flowers and $10 for an ounce of trim or shake. And it's assessed one time. And if an edible is made out of it or any other extract product, it's taxed at the rate of the cannabis that goes into that product. So that's a much more reasonable tax.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
For your explanation. You have a good evening.
You too. Okay, we have some more callers on the phone, and we have one standing by here in the studio. Go right ahead, John. John's got something to say.
Yeah, just a comment and also a question. First, the question. Given that we have legal cannabis for everybody else, and of course we have an outstanding medical cannabis program, what is the potential, and is there an avenue for we the people to come up with some kind of initiative, measure, or something to suspend any and all government interference with us raising this vegetable for a period of time that would be, to me, what I would call punitive in nature for these bastards, for these money-grubbing pieces of you-know-what, to come, and after they've been putting our people in jail, tarring and feathering them, now saying they want our money and driving up the prices for everybody. What kind of insidious creeps are these that are running our government? And why shouldn't we have a 10-year moratorium on them looking at us at all? They should let us go for about at least 10 years.
Yeah, let our people go.
For at least 10 years. Let us do whatever we need to do to build it up. You know, get them out of our. What will it take? What will it take for us to
we have to take, talk to the legislators and institute good laws, and let them know that we're against these things. Write letters, as Greg was saying a second ago, go down and participate in the legislative process. I'm so happy that 400 people showed up on Monday to let the legislators know they can't take away medical patients' rights. But that's the way the process works. We have to participate in the legislative process, because if we don't, those people who want to imprison us will, unfortunately. We have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Yes, Paul?
Yes, welcome.
Yeah, how you doing? This is John.
Very well.
From Oregon
Hey, John.
City. How's everybody?
We're doing well.
Well, that's good to hear. Say, I wanted to ask you, I did not renew my medical marijuana card.
Uh-huh.
And I want to make sure that I didn't put myself into jeopardy by not doing that. I do grow for myself, for my pain. And what avenues can the police or anybody, if I'm out and about in a park or driving and they happen to see, say, a canister, a film canister, or something that I might have seen left on the floor or something? I mean, is there any way they could actually cause me some problems now that I don't have that card?
Well, let me explain the differences. If you don't have a medical card here in the state of Oregon, arguably right now, at least by July, it'll be legal for anyone in the state to possess an ounce when they are away from their home. At the same time, anyone over the age of 21, that's what I mean when I said anyone over the age of 21 can possess an ounce away from their home, and you can grow 4 marijuana plants in your household. Same time, you can possess up to 8 ounces of marijuana in your household. There's also some amount of edibles and soluble drinks that are made with cannabis that you can possess as well. But if you have a medical marijuana card, in addition to being able to possess that per household, each patient can grow a total of 24 plants with the extra 4 that are provided by the adult use law. They can have 6 of those plants that aren't limited in size and 18 of the plants that are smaller and not wider or taller than 1 foot. And a medical marijuana patient can possess up to 24 ounces of cannabis wherever they are at. So the difference is, if you just have a film canister, as long as you aren't, operating a motor vehicle, could be charged with driving under the influence or while intoxicated, then you'd be legal as long as you're over the age of 21. And so those are the differences. Also, once the legal, right now, if you have a medical card, you can go to these dispensaries, and there are about 260 of them licensed in the state right now, and purchase cannabis there. If you grow it as a medical patient, you can also sell your cannabis to these dispensaries, and you can continue, you're protected with a state license in several other jurisdictions. You're protected in Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, Maine, Rhode Island, and quite ironically, the District of Columbia. So having an Oregon permit protects you in these other jurisdictions as well, where without that Oregon permit, you wouldn't be legal in those areas. Of course, if you're not going to those areas, it doesn't really matter. But if you are, then you would be legally protected.
Oh, okay. So sounds like it finally has come about all these years of your effort and all of our effort.
Our whole communities, yes.
The legislator, making them realize that we have rights about what we can use for pain if we're not into pills or heavy-duty meds. And like you say, as long as nobody catches you driving a vehicle under the influence, and having it, whether it be a film canister or whatever, it sounds like we're in pretty good shape finally.
Yeah, you are.
Okay, I just want to make sure there's no loopholes where, and I guess if they catch you for under the influence, it's probably not going to be too much. You'll probably have to get an attorney, won't you?
Yeah, if you're operating a motor vehicle and they try to accuse you of that, I think they'll want to draw your blood, and then they'll test for active cannabis in your blood. Urine tests don't qualify, so if you're just given a urine test, that's pretty easy to beat. But if you have a blood test that shows you have active THC in your system, then you might have to fight that in court.
And as Gateway Galbraith pointed out, break one law at a time. If you got a dead body in the trunk, make sure all the lights on your car are working.
Yeah, you're right about that.
How often have you been
Well,
down
thank
there?
you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
We have a couple calls standing by. Let's see if we can get those in. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller.
Yes, Paul, this is Julius, and I'd like to ask a question kind of on the gentleman before. Hi, Clay. And anyway, on July 1st, can we go in to a dispensary on July 1st if we don't have a medical marijuana license?
No. You can only go
we
into
have
the dispensaries with a medical marijuana license. And the Oregon Liquor Control Commission, which under the initiative that passed with over 56% of the vote, Measure 91, the OLCC will start accepting applications next January, but we probably won't see the first stores opening for adults until about a year from now. So the only way to take advantage of the current 260 plus dispensaries is with an Oregon medical marijuana permit.
I have a second question to ask you, Paul.
Okay.
Okay. When we get these medical marijuana cards from the state, does the state have to let the government know that we have this card?
Well, the state health department or health authority, they changed their name several times, and their latest iteration is the Oregon Health Authority. That is a state agency, so that's the government. But there are rules regarding the release of information on medical patients that the Oregon Health Authority has to follow. So they cannot let anyone know unless an Oregon police officer, a state, municipal, county police officer contacts them and says, does this specific person born on this date have a medical marijuana permit? Then the Oregon Health Authority will answer yes or no. Or an Oregon law enforcement official, state, county, municipal, can ask, is this address a legal medical marijuana grow site? And the Oregon Health Authority will say yes or no. But they won't say yes or no to anyone else. In fact, back in 2007, a federal court subpoenaed the Oregon Health Authority and subpoenaed my clinic for 17 medical records, 17 patients' medical records. Out of, it was a Yakima federal attorney in the Yakima federal court that subpoenaed 17 medical patients' records from THCF medical clinics and the Oregon Health Authority. Well, when I got the subpoena at THCF medical clinics, I didn't realize that the state of Oregon had also been subpoenaed. But on the subpoena, it says you cannot say anything about this. You cannot contact anyone. If you do mention this subpoena, you will be charged with interfering in a criminal investigation in federal court. So, of course, the next day I had a news conference and announced that we had received this and we were going to fight this subpoena. And, in fact, we did fight the subpoena, and we went to federal court in Yakima back in 2007. We made our argument, and the head judge for the Eastern District of Washington ruled in our favor and quashed or destroyed that subpoena and said that the federal government's investigation does not overcome Oregon's law, and that their inquiry didn't meet standards to force us to do that. So that was quashed, and there has been no further federal attempt to obtain patient records that I know of. But if you're interested, it's a really great 8-page ruling. You can read the federal ruling by going to our website at thc-foundation.org. Just says THCF defends patients. Click on that link, and you can read that federal court ruling on how other law enforcement don't have access to these records.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Paul.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
Since we're in a war on drug, we should fight fire with fire. You know, you get tanks on tanks and planes on planes. We need to get the names of police officers and start doing midnight raids, kick in the doors and make them smoke a joint, make them learn how to use a bong at gunpoint, tell them we're going to kill their dog if they don't turn the vaporizer on now.
Okay.
Just saying.
I understand.
All right.
Let's see if we can get another call in here. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Pretty well. How are you tonight?
Oh, in pain as always.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, things are hopefully going to change here. I got chronic migraines, chronic back pain, 30-plus years. Got my question for you is here. If anybody can answer it, you will be able to.
I'll try.
All righty. Now, my plan here is to drop a couple of little clones in the ground and make little small things turn into big things. And with the exception of nosy neighbors and whatnot, well, I guess in spite of the nosy neighbors and just parties who shouldn't have anything to do with what my intent is, all for personal use, nobody should know anything else, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what would be the situation if I was to? I got to stick them. I cannot wait till July 1st to throw them in the ground to have things happen.
Well, you know, the law has 2 clauses in it, and maybe we can pop that on the screen, maybe not. But in one part of the law, and in the voters' pamphlet that went out to every voter in the state of Oregon last fall, it says the law went into effect 30 days after the election. So the law actually went into effect, according to the voters' pamphlet, December 6th of last year. Now, there's another section in the law, just a few paragraphs later, that said the law went into effect in July. So, and that's the one that gets quoted in the media so often. But
right. That's where I get mixed up, because here's some arbitrary date, and it seems like they might be. Okay,
there it
they're in
is.
a
You can
pissy
see
mood
there's
that
the
they
law
could just
right
use
there,
their
and both the
discretion.
sections are highlighted. One section says it goes into effect 30 days after the election. Another section says it goes into effect in July.
And we're almost at July anyway, so it's darn near a moot point.
I think that you're safe to put them in the ground now.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you're going to put seeds out there, that would be an okay thing. But you don't want to put clones out because they'll start flowering. You don't want to put clones out until mid-May,
right,
to make certain they don't flower.
Okay, I'm not like the world's best gardener, but again, you could probably find worse. So what my problem, my definite problem would be, again, nosy neighbor situation. If I was to stick something, okay, let's say mid-May, that again is before July 1st, what would be the consequence or the possibility of somebody saying, hey, this guy has these?
Are you in Multnomah County?
Yes, sir.
You're safe. Outside of Multnomah County, in Washington County, Clackamas County, Multnomah County, for those of you outside the area who don't know, is the county that Portland, Oregon is in. So you're safe in Multnomah County. You can go ahead and put up to 4 plants outside right now. Now's not a good time because they'll start flowering.
No, don't want
you
that.
should wait a little bit, but if you want to start them inside and put them outside come July 1st, then you're doubly safe.
Well, my friend, he says he's got something pretty nice little babies, and they're all rooted and ready. And my chance to get them is going to be a really short open and shut window.
Well, if you
here.
do put them outside, you could supplement with light, so they get over 14 hours of daylight, and then they're not going to flower.
Okay, gotcha. Would you happen to also, if I can take up a little bit more of your time, would you happen to know of any strain going around right now that is primarily a pain-killing thing as opposed to just getting you shithouse crazy?
You know, I think the main pain relief component of cannabis is CBD. So one with more CBD will have more pain relief, I think.
Right, I got that, but do you happen to know?
There's so many different strains out there, and when one person grows them, it can have one cannabinoid profile, and somebody else grows the same plant under different conditions. It could be different. So I can't.
Right, like
there's
soil amendments can
from
change
what I
that,
can understand right now, 2,000 different varieties. So one with more indica is probably better.
All right, Paul. I thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You have a good night.
You too. Gee, we got a lot of calls tonight. Go ahead. We'll take another caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hey.
Hey.
So I was wondering, how come marijuana seeds aren't legal?
They are.
So you can purchase them just like you can purchase legalized marijuana?
Well, you know, if you are a medical marijuana patient, some dispensaries have clones and seeds. Right now, there's no one who can legally go out there and sell them because they won't have these licenses. Once the law goes into effect next year, they will be selling clones and they'll be taxed at $5 a plant. But there's no tax on seeds. There are places up in Vancouver, BC that I just happened to have visited on Monday of this week and Tuesday that sell seeds legally. So it's not far to drive, but you can order them on the internet too. But they're not cheap. You know, they should be cheap, but they're not.
And I got to admit, I do like walking into some of the dispensaries here in the Portland area. I feel like I'm living in a Cheech and Chong dream. I get to point to different containers that are glass, see-through, beautiful buds. They all smell different. I get a sample of another one. I whip out my little plastic. I go outside, go to McDonald's for a $1 menu and go home. I love it. It's great.
It is great. I used to order seeds from Mark Emery, but obviously you know what happened to him.
You know, I saw Mark on Tuesday, and he's selling seeds again. He's not shipping them to the United States.
I wonder why.
But you can go up there and buy them from him.
Yeah.
He sits at his Cannabis Culture store there at 307 West Hastings in Vancouver, BC, most afternoons from 12:30 to 6. And a line of people are lined up, and he's giving away free dabs to people every day, I think.
Cool.
I think he's enjoying that.
All right,
sure
man,
beats
thanks.
being in federal prison where he spent 5 years and just got out about last August.
Very nice.
Okay, thanks for your call. Did we have time for our video? I don't think we have. We had a video, but we don't have time for it right now. We were going to have Jorge Cervantes' video, but the questions just kept rolling right in. You know, they just came out. Jorge Cervantes just came out with a new book. It just got printed, and I got it in the mail this week, and I turned to page 100, and there in the top corner is my smiling face in front of two 12-pound each marijuana plants. So if you can get Jorge Cervantes' new book, The Cannabis Encyclopedia, look on page 100. There I am. There's a lot of other people in there too, but I looked in the index and sure enough saw my name and turned to page 100.
Well, your herb should be in a book. I know when I smoke your herb, I sometimes find myself in cartoon land. That's for sure.
There are a lot of people here in Portland who know Jorge. He first wrote his first book, Indoor Marijuana Horticulture, here in Portland back in 1983.
Incognito, dark glasses, dark hat,
he dropped
fake
his
wig.
incognito back in 2009.
That is a fake wig, right?
Yes.
Thank God.
Fake dreadlock. You want to talk about your radio show in 20 seconds or less?
We got a fantastic programming network, a group of people dedicated to ending prohibition. Please go to timeforhemp.com, find us on the internet, get your Android app from Google Plus, and tell all your friends to take Time for Hemp. Thank you.
And as I mentioned briefly a moment or two ago, we have clinics all over the country from sea to shining sea, from out in Hawaii to out in the East Coast. If you or a loved one need help finding a doctor who can help you get a medical marijuana permit anywhere in the United States, we can help anyone who lives in the United States get an Oregon permit or help you get your local state one too. Call us at 1-800-723-0188. That number there on your screen. Thanks for watching. We're going to go out on another great song by Mr. John Cornette. Tune in next week and help us restore hemp. Ta-da! One more time.